Fran, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, we do a lot of the same work when it comes to coaching and speaking. And one of the areas I talk about a lot um, are our blind spots.
Mhm.
And so, as you're talking about what your sisters tell you all the time, that you're not in charge, the real question is, do you believe
Ultimately, no.
them?
However, they're an important voice because there's just as you have a right eye and a left eye, you have a left side, a right side, um, understanding you can have one perspective, and what helps give you that 360 or at least 180 view is what are other people thinking and seeing. In branding, they talk about a lot of times people say, this is my brand.
Hmm.
And then there's a whole school of thought that says your brand is not what you say it is. Your brand is how others perceive
Yeah.
what you have to offer. So I love that my sisters remind me that I'm not in charge. And in this global world, no, I'm not. However, I know every single day, every single hour, every single minute, I can make a difference. And the difference may be in listening to someone else and helping bring out their significance. It may be in supporting someone and allowing them to kind of discover what's bothering them and how they want to move forward. So I ultimately feel I am significant. I have a critical role to play while I'm here on this earth. And ideally, while I'm here on this earth, I help lift others so that they can have a significant role to play.
I really appreciate what you're saying. And I'm compelled to ask this question. What signs have you seen in yourself that have allowed you to trust yourself?
One of the signs was something that happened after a very kind of tragic event, and that was discovering first that I had cancer, and then after having cancer, having a stroke. And when I was in the hospital bed for about 2 weeks, being and I was paralyzed, I realized that I had to trust,
Hmm.
and that at that time initially I couldn't speak and I couldn't move.
Wow.
And as a person who is, again, used to being the oldest of four girls, telling people what to do, even if they're not listening,
Yeah.
it was very humbling.
Yeah.
And recognizing that this was a sign to be still, not that I had any choice, to appreciate that I was alive, to trust in others, including the doctors, and to recognize that my family was around me. Remember, my mother later said to me, the doctors, when they took me into the emergency room, asked her whether or not she would approve them drilling a hole in the back of my head to relieve the pressure.
Yeah.
And she said, absolutely not. And they were like, well, there's going to be some consequences. And she was like, my daughter will withstand the consequences. No hole in her head. Probably because she knew I had a hard head and they wouldn't be able to get the drill through, but another story for another time. So I think having, again, literally being paralyzed
Yeah.
for 2 weeks helped me understand that there are situations where you literally can be immobilized and that you do have to trust in powers other than your own, and rely on other people to get through that. And it not only literally did it build muscle, in a lot of ways it built character.
Yeah.
And it helped me appreciate that life is short
Yeah.
and that while you're here, again, it's important to be significant.
You've used the word value in the
Hmm.
context of providing value to
Hmm.
others. And a
Right.
lot of people, especially business owners, struggle with that word. So
Hmm.
help us unpack that. What does that really mean, value?
Okay. I guess it can mean a number of things. In terms of financially, value is often measured by the number of dollars
Mm.
that you make. But I think, like many things, you in a sense started with what's your why. Value comes from inside. Do you value yourself? How do you see yourself? What shapes how you see yourself? How do you show up for yourself
Yeah.
and for others? So many entrepreneurs, and I think it's true of female and entrepreneurs of color, that we get so many messages that we're not important, that we're not significant, that we're not valued, that we're not worth it,
Yeah.
that I like to use that word of value to have people do what you just did. Question, what is value? When am I valued? Why do I feel valued? Where do I show up where I know I add value and where others are willing to acknowledge that I have value? And then from the entrepreneurial standpoint, as opposed to maybe the nonprofit standpoint, attaching a dollar value, a dollar amount to that value, and thinking beyond the one-time transaction,
Yeah.
literally developing a relationship, an ongoing relationship that ideally brings in others. Because again, just as you and the Urban League and MARTA are putting together this program called Empowering Moments, it's not power moment, singular. It's empowering moments. The ing signifies that there's an action here, and it's a continual action. So value is something that is defined. It continues to get defined and refined, and its impact um, in some ways is immeasurable, and it's important to quantify it, to be very specific
Makes sense.
mentally, physically, monetarily.
Another question along that value continuum. Uh, Another way that you deliver who you are is through speaking to groups.
Yes.
Um, and a couple things that you focus on is you work with people who are infected with frustration and paralyzed by fear.
Right.
So tell me more about what that means and what value do
Sure.
you add in helping people?
Sure. So, how do you go from being frustrated to, in my book, fantastic? How do you step up and be significant? And really, what I've identified, not only from my life, but looking at how others kind of walk through their life and face challenges, a big part is to acknowledge I'm where I don't want to be. And again, who do I need around me in order to get going? So get going is the first part. Second is find support. So if you get going and you don't know where you're going, that can be a problem. So where can you find support? How can you acknowledge and accept that support? How can you really discover what is significant? What are you moving towards? What's your vision point? And then how can you achieve balance? How can you support others? So again, you're not going on this journey alone. You are going with others who are going to a place and going towards a place that's meaningful. Again, not only for yourself, but for others.
Well, Fran, this has been a phenomenal experience. Our session really is about empowering moments where
Yes.
our viewers, myself, and our guests, we learn, we grow, we gain confidence, we build resilience. And I'll tell you, on that whole topic of poison, this conversation has been the serum to the poison in my life. And I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you. Thanks, Kate. And thanks also to Marta.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.